without further ado, I'm going to hit record on here and get started and say, hey guys, welcome. As I look around here, make sure I've got everything in order. Welcome to this week's The Show Will Go On webinar. We're gonna talk about proposals in the next normal, or the new normal, or what really we should just call now, because we're there, we're in it. Um, I catch myself as I'm reading your emails and seeing your blog, your posts, and your marketing stuff, and making announcements about you're preparing for the next normal, and it's like, yeah, no, that was a couple of months ago. We're there now, so this is the normal, and your normal may be writing one proposal a day or a week, or doing 5 jobs a week, or doing one job a month. This is your normal, and we've got nowhere to go but up. So let's treat it like what it is this is where we are. We can't go down any farther. I think we're there, we're at the bottom, so it's all uphill from here. And if you disagree with me, put something in the chat. So for those of you who just joined us, we are working from the chat today. I'm going to get away from the Q&A box. If I can only monitor one thing, I want to monitor the chat. Be a little bit more steady. I'm not going to type back to you because, well, that would be embarrassing. But I am going to respond to your comments live and your questions live as I present the content. So feel free to dig in there, and we'll evolve this thing, be a little bit more casual about this going forward. So the show is going to go on. We are in our next normal. I am still Tom Stimson, and those are all the places you can still find me. So please come visit sometime. I need to give a couple of shout outs because, of course, Avixa is sponsoring this series of webinars for you. And we have, of course, Avixa owns and produces the InfoComm event, which we are not going to be at physically next week, but it is going online. So if you haven't registered for that, please do. There's 3 days of streaming events, and then there's going to be more events and things online over the summer. They're really stepping up their game on all of that. But I think just attending a virtual conference next week, like this one is, the sort of thing your clients are asking you about, be a real good thing for you to check it out. And oh, by the way, you'll get to hear from some great people. Short presentations, very quick, very digestible, which is important with this online stuff as we're all learning. So please register for that and join us next week. I have a presentation that is 10:30 Eastern time on, I think, the 18th, which I believe is Thursday next week, and then I do a panel discussion and later on in the day in the afternoon here in the US. So I hope you guys will check that out and join us. And in those, we'll do a presentation. I'll be there online chatting with you as you're watching it, and be there to answer some questions afterwards. So we'll see how it works. I'm very excited about it. I liked all the possibilities, and it was a very interesting experience to work on the pre-production side of this as a presenter. So we'll do all of that. So what else do I have to announce? Yeah, Avixa, our friend Beth is out there to help you. If you're interested in the Live Events Council and getting involved in that, please do that. Mark July 15th, we have a live events forum online, of which I'm going to be a sponsor. There's some market analysis surveys for members that are member-only access that you can see and get some reports about what's going on in the field with your peers. So please join. There's free membership for individuals. So there's a lot of things that you can take advantage of if you'll just make that step. Avixa is still going to continue the business survival exchange now that we're past the triage phase of our crisis and we're into that new normal. They're going to move it to every other week. So I believe not this week, but next week will be the next event. But do register for that. There's the link, and you'll be notified when those are. Add them to your calendar and participate. It's another great way to find out what's going on with how these online meetings occur. Yeah, hey, I'm still doing my pro bono work, and I still enjoy it. So if you haven't taken advantage of me, of my offer, please schedule some time with me. Let me help you with your business, see where you're at. If you didn't need me during the initial phases of the crisis, now that things have settled down, maybe it's time to look back and see what you did. Make sure you've got a good plan going forward. There's an awful lot we can do in a 15, 20-minute call, so don't be shocked if you come away with a lot more than you were thinking. And this is not a sales pitch. I don't have anything to sell you. There's time to help you with stuff. It's your call, it's your agenda. You ask the questions, I'm there for you. So just a reminder, change the format today, use the chat dialogue. I'm gonna give you a brief lesson. I want lots of Q&A. You guys have sent me some questions in advance, and I will weave those in here as well. We're gonna run this until the top of the hour, or when you guys run out of questions, because we can all go on to the next thing. Let's see. So we're gonna talk about proposals this week. Oh, by the way, keep dropping the chats, and some of you are dropping updates in. This is good. Particularly around the world, understand what's going on. I'm doing a presentation tomorrow for an international group of folks from the Americas, North and South America, to talk about the state of the industry and how their particular segment might be affected, and answer their questions as well. So I'm getting a lot of international perspective in my position here, but share some with each other, particularly you guys from overseas, from outside the US and Canada, and let people know what's going on with you and in your world. So we're gonna talk about proposals. So over the past couple of weeks, the number of proposals people have been writing in my primary audience, which is North America, has just skyrocketed. Now, not all of them are proposals for work. A lot of them were what we call fishing expeditions, or their clients are testing the waters, want to find out how something works. And we have taught them to ask for a proposal when all they really want is information. So a lot of the proposals we're writing are informational. They're exploratory. They're not directly tied to work that is going to happen. But it's the only way that they know how to get us to talk to them. So we need to recognize that, first of all, when we're getting ready to write a proposal. Am I writing a proposal that should have been a conversation? Are we trying to educate somebody? If so, a proposal is a horrible way to do it. So make sure you're asking the right questions and make sure if people need help, just help them, okay? The people you help will come back to you later when they have money to spend, or a real event to book, or something to schedule. Be the person that they remember when they were learning how all of this works. So having said that, here's some things, here's something not to do. And this is very typical of what I see in the live events segment, which is 75% of you do integrated corporate events, or industrial events, or association events. And you design a proposal that is so full of detail, or even to get to the budget, to the number, you design the job down to the cable so that you know what it is worth and what to ask for. And this is the same as, somebody saying, I'm going to design and build $1 million home for you, but here's the comprehensive list of parts. No one builds custom homes with $1 million plus budgets that does a detailed proposal, because often the home's not even designed yet, right? So often you're proposing on events that aren't really fully fleshed out or designed. So there's a couple of key problems illustrated in this example on your screen. Is number one, don't show your work unless that's what you're being paid for. So there are people out there in our market, in our channel, who are paid to put together detailed estimates, and often they use you to do their work for free. Think about that. They're just taking your work, they're plugging it into their spreadsheet. You've done their work for them. They're getting paid to report that. The client's never seeing your proposal. They're seeing your numbers blended in with everybody else's numbers. They're going back and developing the budget that they want, changing what their ask is, and then going back to the suppliers that they want to work with, which may not be you, right? But you've done all the work. So think about that. So don't show your work. If you need to count all the nails and screws and board feet of something in order to put an estimate out, that's your problem, okay? You need to fix that, but you don't have to show it to the customer, because it just proves you don't know how to price things, right? If you're estimating a house, you price it by square foot and fit and finish. So level 1 builder home, level 2 custom home, level 3 luxury home, price per square foot, $75 a square foot, $175 a square foot, $400 a square foot, and then there's add-ons you can go on top of all of that. Okay? People know how to estimate if they understand their industry, and that's what you need to do. You need to understand your industry better. There's the second problem in here. When you quote this way, you're obligated, therefore, to justify what actually happens, right? So now, is a homeowner going to go back and count how many nails were in the job? Hopefully not, but nobody's going to buy from somebody who quotes this way anyway in a custom home. But if they did, you might be in a position of giving money back. You'll never be in a position of asking for more money if you quote with this level of detail, right? If you don't use words like up to 7,000 nails. That means that nail 7,001, the client has to pay for because it's a change order, right? So don't do to yourself what you wouldn't want to do. You know, you wouldn't want to do business this way, so why would we do that to our customers? So let's think about this. You know, what does $1 million include? You know, you can say, well, it's 3,000 square feet of residential framing, 100 hours of architect time, there's 1,500 hours of project management. There's an allowance of $250,000 within that $1 million for design options that the client can make later. Okay? In other words, you can build a house for $1 million any number of ways, but how the customer chooses to work will affect where the money is spent, right? And the same thing applies to how you do your events, to your shows, or really anything that you do at all. So let's get the iceberg in here. And again, guys, we're going to work in the chat today. I've got the Q&A box where I can see it, but if you did, we've done Q&A box for a long time, and now we're moving over to chat. So drop your question in the chat, and I'll try and keep up with it. So chat today, live chat. All right. So your proposal has got to reflect the value of what you do. And it's interesting to note that what the customer sees is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, in some of the work that we do and some of the things that we offer, the client can see everything, right? If you're renting a piece of equipment, they see everything. There's nothing hidden. It's a very transparent transaction. But as soon as we start to move into events, there's pre-production and behind the scenes things that add a lot of value to what you do, but the customer doesn't see it. Okay, so the type of proposal that you put together is reflective of where the value is derived in the work that you're going to do. So for instance, you know, gear delivery, gear setup, maybe dropping off an operator to stay for the day, that kind of starts to wander into show site. Maybe there's a little bit more in the background there. But once we start getting into full service productions, and we're working from a scope of work, everything changes. Lots of things are done in the background, and we have to figure out how we can present that value in a way that we're going to capture it in the sale. That's your margin, right? Your margin's not in the equipment. Once we cross that threshold of the water line, your margin is very often in very intangible things, and we have to learn how we can sell that intangible. But there's some gray area. It's always gray as we move through, you know, from deliverables to outcomes. We're moving through shades of gray where sometimes they're a little bit of both of something. So your basic rental work, your show site work, and then work that's intrinsic value or outcome-based selling is what I often call it. Each derives value a little bit differently. And where we cross from rental into show or from show into outcomes is gray. Okay? There's little gray areas there where these things overlap. We have to learn how to recognize that. So the process I want to talk about today and re-teach you today is about additive selling. Now, there are 3 basic proposal styles. We're going to sell deliverables, we're going to sell a scope of work, or we're going to sell outcomes. So you can choose from your 3 basic proposal styles depending on the application of the work you're going to do. Now, you could probably eliminate 2 of them very quickly just by looking at where you are in the value chain, but sometimes you're going to have to make an assessment between 2 of them. And then for each one of these styles, deliverable, scope of work, outcomes, there are sub-styles. And those substyles reflect the buyer type. Okay, so remember our three types of buyers: confidence, value, and control, and then all the permutations of those three. So then at a minimum, you need three substyles for confidence, value, and control, but using a standard proposal element and emphasizing what's important for each situation means that you might actually have an infinite number of proposal variations depending on the type of person that you're dealing with, or the group or the committee, or what the sale is like. So what we can do with this is we can eliminate the things that don't apply to the situation that we're in right now. So each style is going to emphasize the value of the service. And for each type of service that you have, or type of business that you do, there's parts, there's functionality, and there's integration. Okay, so parts are parts and pieces, right? Pieces of equipment. Functionality is what the equipment will do, which may be brand agnostic. We don't care. I need a camera that does 4K, or I need a specific camera. So parts is a specific camera or camera piece. Functionality is a camera package that meets a criteria. Integration is a system of things that are all working together and deliver a functionality. In other words, I can get the signal out of it that I need by putting all these parts and pieces together. So for each type of business you do, and it'd be easier to explain if I go on to the next slide here. Since most of my audience here, you're primarily live events people, I'll talk about this version of it, basically the rental-based business. But you don't have to be rental-based to use this chart, because your product and service may fall in elsewhere. So this is additive selling. The most basic proposal is rental items with line item pricing. And from there, we add value. And when we add value, we add margin, right? So likewise, if you take a comprehensive scope of work proposal, like a custom home for $1 million, and you break it down into all of its little parts and pieces, you dismantle that value and make it the customer's job to figure it all out. It makes the customer's job actually harder to determine whether or not all of these functions come together to form a system, rather than selling them the system. Okay, so remember, who you are selling for is as important as what you're selling in determining what proposal you're going to use. Because some buyers want that. Some buyers want that detail. Control buyers want to see how they're going to spend their money. Other people don't. They want to see what their money will do for them, right? So, so each style will emphasize the value of the service. If you're in, I've just changed this to if you're in the systems integration world, I just want to show you that this model applies to other types of business within our industry. If you're a staffing company, you can make this work as well. If you're an integration company, in other words, you sell gear and you instead of rent gear, you still have pieces, functions, and systems, right? You can do systems integration, which means that you're going to set up, operate, and do system support of an integrated system in the built environment. Design build, we're still assessing, designing, and executing a project. Design consulting, designing a project, helping it get built, and evoke, which has to do with the feeling that the user gets when they are placed into the environment. You know, that's what designers do. Designers create emotion, okay? Whether that emotion is pleasurable or enjoyable, or it's functional, or it's simplified, it puts people at ease, whatever it is. Everything we design has an intended outcome. How do we want the user to feel when they experience this design? So we can apply this to any industry, any type of business that you're in at all. Now, in additive selling, when you write your proposal for a specific product or service somewhere on this chart, okay, remember that the value proposition is what the customer is paying for. Everything else you do is easily duplicated. Your value proposition is what you bring to the party that makes doing business with you a better idea than doing business with someone else. And so how do we add a value proposition? And here's some examples in here of value propositions. So you don't need to say that, yeah, we've brought together the best people the best minds and creative experiences to make sure your camera package is perfect. Okay, so the same value proposition for creating a customer experience in Evoke, we don't need to use that if we're just renting pieces, right? But what do we need? Well, if we're going to rent pieces, somehow the value proposition has got to include the fact that, well, this is complete and working. I mean, it's like, I can rent you a piece. Yeah, I don't know if it works, but it's cheap, right? So there's value that you're adding to it, and you've got to figure out how to present that in your proposal. If you're running a function, here's a camera chain, which means I have all the parts and pieces for a functioning camera that will be part of somebody's system. I've got to be able to say how I'm meeting that criteria. How am I putting value to make sure that system will best suit the needs of this customer versus some other option that they might have. And the same thing with systems. The value of a system is that it is fully operational, okay, or operable, I should say, because you're not the one making it operate. They are, but all the parts and pieces are there. Everything's tested. We know these will work together. There's a system. Here you go, right? Now, as you move into executing events, now you're taking the responsibility for making the equipment ready to use. So we're setting it up. It's ready to use. Here you go. All you need to do is plug in your laptop, right? If we're going to operate, we're going to apply the functionality that was available after the setup and use it for the customer. We don't have to use all the functionality. We use the functionality that's appropriate. There's a value proposition, right? And if we're going to do system support, which, let me translate for you, if you're production rental or touring, this is what you do. You're providing a turnkey package and a technician to make sure that it keeps working. That's system support, okay? It's going to operate consistently. It's going to be consistently operable, right? That's the value proposition you're selling. Now, these may not be the words you're going to use to convey this to your specific audience. It does still have to sound like you and not like some consultant. But here's the ideas that you're trying to convey with your proposals. Now, I will put this slide, I'll put it up where you guys can access it on the replay page so you can study this, because this is the crux of the model that I'm talking about here in additive selling. And these are the details you'll probably want to come back to. So if you're doing creative services, you're designing the system, adding creativity to it, which has value. You're making aesthetic recommendations. In other words, you're providing taste, okay? And that taste could be in technical expertise, it could be in visual expertise, aesthetic expertise, experiential expertise, but you're applying taste that the customer will come to appreciate, or would, if they do appreciate, they will hopefully hire you, or it's what they've paid you for. Getting the job built, what you've designed has to get built, which is something you can add to your creative services. So in the agency model, we sell the concept, we sell the design, and then we sell the individual elements that execute it. And then Evoke is the executed design for the effect. So if you take all the parts and pieces and put them together to create an effect, which is the manifestation of the design, okay, which we don't always get to do. Sometimes you just designed and other people are taking that. But if you're responsible for the actual feelings of the audience or the users at the end of the project, okay, then this is what you're selling. The effect, the intended effect, okay? And that's what your proposal needs to reflect. And if you don't do that kind of a proposal, these words probably don't mean a whole lot to you. But for those of you who sell creative services, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. We've got to redouble our efforts to focus on what it is we're creating for the client and spend less time talking about how we're going to get it done, which anyone can do, because the how are all the steps above, right? And the how is included in what it is that you're actually selling. So if you have to explain the how, then you haven't done a good job of making the case for the what that you're doing. So let me just break it down for you. The more simple that of your transaction, the more transactional, the more of a deliverable you're putting out there, your proposal really has to just say, here's what you get, and here's why it's valuable. But as you move into integrated projects, then you're going to spend a little bit more time talking about, here's what we do for you. Okay, not here's what the gear is going to do, here's what we are going to do for you. Okay, we're going to take all the capabilities of this equipment and it's going to let you, the customer, do this and do this and do this. All right, that's what's important to that buyer. Now, again, confidence, value, control buyer, decide which buyer you're speaking to, but you can certainly translate into, are you doing for them what they want done? And that's part of what we have to learn about our customers when we're trying to sell to them. And then finally, as we move down into the outcome space, we're not, there's still a scope of work within outcome-based selling, but the outcome is the bigger focus than the scope of work. The scope of work is the how, the outcome is the what, and these are the things you don't need to worry about. In other words, here are the things that we're going to take care of so that you can have that one thing that was really important to you, which is why you called me in the first place. So this is the basics of additive selling. So what I mean by additive is that if we sell outcomes, we promise to take care of everything above. So if we're selling a full service package where we're responsible for the outcome of the event, then we're also responsible for all the parts and pieces and elements it takes to put it together. Not every project, not every time we design a job are we responsible for everything. But if we're selling a full service event that includes design and creative, we are taking responsibility for everything throughout the entire value chain in some fashion or another. And this has become very important to understand in this world of selling streaming, streaming events. Interesting dynamic in that. Well, I'll talk more about that. Well, actually, I'll talk about it in a different presentation that you guys aren't going to be at. There's an interesting phenomenon happening right now is that our channel is changing because the people who bought the live event are unemployed because most of our clients aren't doing live events. Right now, they're doing streaming events, which may have a hybrid component to it, but it's not the event that we used to do, and therefore the buyer is different. They have their own channels of suppliers. They may not find you. I keep hearing stories about we've done this show for the past 15 years, but they went and found another company to go do their streaming event. They didn't even talk to us, right? Hello, marketing. Hello, business development. There's a lot of this going on. And it also means that when people are finding us, they're not people that we're used to selling to. They're buying with a different set of expectations. And so we're seeing a whole lot of changes in what we need to do in terms of proposals, which is probably where a lot of your questions should come from, because what we need to sell these events is not the same that we needed 3 months ago. And a lot of the events, as I was saying at the top of the show, is that they're speculative. We don't actually know if the client's going to do the event. They're just fishing for numbers. They don't even know how it works. So they're going to let your proposal teach them how to do that. And that's the last thing we want our proposal to do. We want our proposal to affirm what we've already agreed upon with the client is the right solution for them. We want all that education to take place in advance of that. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about proposal templates. I'm going to present 2 proposal templates for you right now because, again, 75% of you, but you can adapt these to just about anything that you do or any of you guys do. So this template can be adapted. It really pretty much falls under the here's what you get proposal model. The rental or transaction proposal, the value proposition has to be clearly stated, right? Okay. Your equipment is going to be maintained by the best team in the world. Here's the process that we use. This is why renting from us is going to be a good choice for you. It also should always, it doesn't have to go in this order, reflect or restate the customer request. The customer has asked for X. Here's what you responded with. Here's what you asked for. Here's what I'm responding with. Very important transactions to mirror the customer back. Then you've got your quoted items, however you put your quote together, whether it's individual pieces, it's a small scope of work, it's a system or package that's one line, it doesn't matter. You do have to put it into the proposal though. And then any notes about the above items that we just talked about. Often these notes are exclusions. This does not include. The customer is expected to provide. So having a section about inclusions, this includes, or exclusions, this does not include. should be in this transaction. This is not stuff you bury in the fine print of terms and conditions. Okay? This is a conversation with the customer. It's short, direct, and to the point. If anybody wants to read the 6-point type on terms and conditions, make your proposal unclear and they're going to scrutinize it or do business with somebody else. So make sure that what they need to know to make a decision is actually in the body of the proposal. Your terms and conditions should be very basic, and they can reference a detailed terms and conditions agreement sheet. By signing this agreement, you agree to the following. All that fine print, you know, when you open up your new Apple device and you click the box that you've read the terms and conditions, that's the terms and conditions I'm talking about that the client doesn't read. On your screen, I'm talking about the terms and conditions that the client will read, which is this quote is good for 15 days. In order to confirm this quote, you have to take these steps. Payment is due then, blah, 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 blah. The stuff that they actually need to know. And then we always want to include next step. This is the thing that I see left off of proposals most often. We think we're covering it in the cover letter or the body of the email that we send it out with. No, put it in the silly proposal. Here's how to confirm this. Here's the next step you need to take, so that they can flow right into that sequence. And if it's an electronic proposal, that next step should be a live button they can click that allows them to go to the DocuSign or whatever you're using to confirm that document and make payment if a payment is appropriate at that time. Now, again, drop any live questions you have into the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. The service proposal template, as we move down into the away from transactional proposals and into projects where there's a scope of work, on into agency type work, which is the outcome-based selling, we use a proposal format that looks a little bit more like this. We always want to start with some sort of background and situation. Very often in service proposals and big projects, you're not selling to one buyer, you're selling to a committee, you're selling to a group of people who are going to review this individually and have input. So you need to restate what the buyer, you think the person that you're dealing with already knows, so that everybody else knows that they've communicated it to you. So make sure you put the background in there of what you're trying to do. The goals and objectives of the project or the piece of it that you've been assigned to, how you're going to measure success. We'll know that we've done it right if this. This does not have to be a novel. I can do background, situation, goals and objectives, and measures of success in 3 sentences. That can be an opening paragraph where everything's put together. Or it can be 3 pages in a PowerPoint presentation. It doesn't have to be verbose, like me. When we talk about the value to the buyer, to the company, of doing business with you. Here's the advantages. Again, this is the value proposition of everything, not the value proposition of the camera package or the value proposition of your designer. This is the value proposition of your organization, right? Then, of course, you have the scope of work and options. There's no detail, there's no line items here. Here's the scope of work. For this element, however you break down the elements, which will change according to who the buyer is. If you have a technical buyer or a control buyer, it's going to be the audio system, the video package, the record system, the streaming platform, that level of detail. To a confidence buyer, you might frame it a little bit differently. Okay, we might say the presenter environment, okay, the backstage environment, the audience environment, and present it a little bit differently. Timelines are important, particularly because we need to make sure that we know when we get paid. Some of that's covered in terms and conditions, but the timeline of the project is what the customer is interested in. That's really just part of the scope. Mutual accountabilities, like I said earlier, this is the inclusions and the exclusions part of terms and conditions. Here's the things I'm going to be responsible for. Here's the things that you're responsible for. Here are the things we're responsible for together. Here's what we do if we ever have a disagreement. Then the terms and conditions. This is the short version. I would never send the boilerplate rental terms and conditions with a 6-point type in a service proposal. You are not renting gear. Okay? You are producing an event. All the terms and conditions you need for this should actually be in the proposals. And then, of course, we still need that confirmation and next steps. And get your questions ready. Got a couple of proposal best practices here. This is going to be hard for some of you. If you don't have enough business, every proposal becomes do or die. And if you do not take any risks on proposals, then what you're going to do is lower your margin and make the proposal as accessible to anybody as possible so that you don't offend anyone, that you please everyone, and you're not going to make any money. Your scope of work is not going to be well defined. You're never going to say no. You're going to over deliver, which means you're going to make less money than you actually sold it at. Go all in on your recommendations. Draw a line in the sand on a proposal. Okay. As a buyer, I will respect a proposal that says the buyer has asked for this. It is against our recommendations to pursue that. Here's what you should be doing instead. Go all in, but do not exceed your value proposition. Okay. Work with that right-hand side column of the things that you're trying as a company that you can consistently add value to. Don't exceed that, but do make sure that your recommendations are heard, because at the end of the day, you're an expert. And if you're not, you're probably playing in the wrong sandbox. Maybe you need to drop down to the type of jobs that you can be more of an expert at. So the closer you are to selling outcomes, the higher your margin should be. I know from observation, from working with many of you, that the closer you get to selling outcomes, the smaller your margins get. For many of you, your best margins are your dry hire rental orders. And the more value you put into the job, the smaller your margins get. So that while you may have, 50, 60% margins on a $50,000 show, on a $500,000 show, your margins are 20%. And why is that? Well, we're making so much money, we don't have to make as high a percentage. Yeah, that may be true, but you don't want to be making a percentage that's 70% less than what you would normally make. So selling outcomes has a lot of risk to it. There's a lot on the line. You should have some higher margins. And sometimes the reason you don't is because you've done a poor job of framing your value proposition in such a way that it aligns well with the customer's needs and wants, which makes your proposal kind of like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I do this? This is exactly what we talked about. These are the things that are important to me. It's all right here. The scope is well defined, and here's the next step. Now, that's the experience that we want. Whatever conversation we have is always to get to the next step. So I go back here, on a service proposal, the goal is just keep the process going, because the service proposal is rarely the last step before confirmation. It usually gets you to another step of maybe another round of bidding or a negotiated conversation for it, but you want to keep that process going. On a rental transaction, the goal is to get the confirmation. So understand what you can expect out of the proposal that you're doing, and make sure that that is clearly stated in next steps. What's the next thing that's going to happen? Well, the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to confirm the job, or you're going to reject it. And by not confirming it, you're rejecting it, right? So hopefully we've got enough buy-in from the customer before we ever send them a proposal that we'll get the feedback that we need, and hopefully the feedback that we want as well. Over delivery. Probably it's kind of like a disease. Once you start over delivering, really bad things happen, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. You need to be crystal clear on what you're providing, even to the point where you feel that you might be upsetting a customer who wants everything for nothing, and you draw a clear line in the sand and go, well, this is just going to piss them off. They're not going to hire us. Well, they're going to act pissed off because they want you to over deliver. That's how they get more bang for their buck. The vaguer they can make you, the more demanding they can be after the sale. And sometimes they don't even have to be demanding because you're so afraid of the customer. You just keep giving stuff away. If all the customer has to do is just stand there and look at you and not say anything, and you keep dropping the price, or you keep adding on things, well, I guess we could do another video. Oh, yeah, we could do that. Oh, sure. Waiting for them to finally smile so you feel like you've gotten some affirmation. This is over delivery, and it ruins companies. That's all of your profit going out the window. And yeah, does the client like you more? Yeah, maybe. They like you more because they got more for their money, but do you like that customer more? Well, no, you're not making any money on this customer. So make sure that you are priced to win, not priced to win, but you're priced to make money. If you're pricing to win, you have to do it strategically, and your scope has to be even more clear, and you have to be even more aware of over delivery because you gave away your margin in the pricing, and there's very little left to work with. So, well, so far the chat's been pretty quiet here. I see a couple of questions here. Sand we draw. Yeah. Thanks, Bill, for the comment. Clients have respected the line in the sand we draw. They need to. That's actually a sign of a fairly mindful, intelligent customer, is if they see that line in the sand. You don't have to be unreasonable about it. You just need to let them know that you understand what it is that you're doing and where it ends. Very, very valuable things. So I've got I got to answer the questions that were sent to me in advance first to make sure that those folks get the time. So this was an interesting question here. This is very similar to a lot of the questions I've been getting lately. A lot of you have, like, mobile LED trucks or trailers, mobile stages. Are doing a lot of outdoor stuff, at least here in North America you are. And all of a sudden that piece that you do is what becomes important. So here's a situation where he's got 4 stages. They love all the features. Here's the rental guy. He admits, the things these stages do is more important to us than they are to the client. All the client cares about is are they set up on time? And are there good techniques to use with their proposals, or should we be what should we be doing to set ourselves apart from the competition? If the buyer is going out there and calling 4 companies for mobile stages and they get 4 rental quotes, you have a lot of room to get some value built in there and make a really, really big impact. Well, I think I actually answered the question in another slide. This is a situation where, remember the types of business. You've got parts, functionality, and integration. If you have a marketplace where, again, we have channel disruption, here's a buyer who's not used to buying this sort of thing. It's the head of the church committee that wants to do an outdoor service, or the school principal or superintendent that wants to have graduation with cars driving by. They're out of their element. These are not the people that normally buy from you, and these are not people who normally buy. So they're often going to be confidence or value buyers because they don't have enough knowledge to be a control buyer. So let's assume it's a confidence buyer. We don't want to increase their confidence. So here's 3 things. Here's 4 things I would put in a proposal or a brochure that I was sharing with somebody who was thinking about getting a mobile stage for their outdoor event. And I would say, hey, we're going to do a site survey for you. We want to consult and make sure they're getting exactly what they need. I'd like to do that before I write you a quote, which is engagement. I want to coordinate with suppliers that will interact with the stage to serve the entire event, because what if you want to do this or you want to do this? These are things I can help you with to make this go better. Oh, you need to do this with the stage because I talked to the DJ. Well, we got to make room for the DJ on the stage. You're being useful for this. This is not about running a stage. This is about using your expertise to help them use the stage more effectively. Provide a comprehensive timeline of events so that the buyer can see where other suppliers should show up, rather than it's all showing up at the same time, which is always fun, right? And then safety plans, okay? If you do anything outdoors, you should be including a safety plan that goes with it. What to do in case of inclement weather, other kinds of emergencies, crowd control, egress. Put that all in there. There's a lot of value built into this, which is a lot more than the guy who can quote a stage over the phone and take a credit card, right? So there's lots of things you can do to set yourself apart, and I hope that answers your question, Stuart. I think it was Stuart who sent that one in. It's harder to limit over delivering if you don't use line item pricing for gear labor for our shows. All right. I understand where your comment's coming from, If it's not well defined, then we're just going to go out and prep whatever we need. What we present to the customers and what we define the job as in the background don't have to be the same thing. There's no reason that you can't have the level of detail you need when the order goes to operations to get processed and prepped. I just don't have to show all of that. I don't have to count the nails for the customer. Okay? I do need to count truss bolts sooner or later. Okay? So we can control over delivery by making a clear scope of work, translating that, what we call scrubbing an order, from here's the scope of work for the client to the scrubbed order. Now, if I built the value of the job, if I came up with the numbers for the job by building a quote in my rental software with all the parts and pieces, then the line items are there for operations and the team to see so that we can avoid over delivery from that standpoint, right? But how I present it to the customer is going to be in customers' terms. So you don't have to give up anything in terms of how you're managing over delivery by moving to a better proposal format. Let's see. What else we got going here? Oh, okay. I got a couple more. I got some more questions here. Let me see if I can find them. Let me go back. Oh, we'll get there in a minute. Hey, new format. I'm going to talk quickly about next week. Next week, I want to talk about selling streaming, not because I know anything about it, but I know an awful lot about selling. And I understand what you're going through when you're selling streaming because you're out of your comfort zone for most of you. It's not what you do. It's not what you've done in the past. It may not be what you want to do in the future, but it's what customers are buying now. So let's talk about that. Send me your questions or concerns or experiences about selling streaming, and let's weave that into there. You know, a lot of questions about how do we price streaming. Spoiler alert, it's the sum of the parts. You price it the same way as you do everything else. You have to know what things cost. But we have some specific things that we need to talk about in streaming that we've never had to deal with before. Where does your business fit in? If you've never done streaming before and customers don't know to call you, but this is the business you need to be doing, let's talk about how you become a company that sells streaming. And then what about the partners that you need to work with? You know, there's a lot of questions that you should be having about streaming, because the folks that I'm dealing with who are doing streaming events right now are writing multiple quotes every day. Even small companies that were, $2 or $3 million worth of business last year, are right now writing 5 streaming quotes a day, and they're doing 2 streaming projects a week. So why aren't you doing that? Maybe you have some questions that we can get answered, because that's where the business is going to be. If right now we're running probably about 5, maybe 10% of the buying capacity, because people are, the markets have not opened up yet. We've only got smattering of business. Imagine what it's going to be like in 3 or 6 months when you're going to be doing 25% of last year's business, but it's all mostly going to be streaming and hybrid events. You can't wait until October to find out that event that's still on your books all of a sudden just became a streaming event, and the on-site is only 10% of the project, right? That's the wrong time to find out. You need to learn how to sell streaming now. So enough of the pitch on that topic. If you need help with your proposal process, your internal process, and you have a lot of deep questions, I also do what I call micro coaching, which is short-term coaching engagements. Schedule an appointment with me. I'd be happy to talk about it, see if it works for you. It's no obligation. But you may have some things that you want to get done, and you'll get them done faster with an expert, and you'll feel more confident about selling this methodology to your team if you've had some input from someone like me. So let's certainly chat about that. And I got more questions coming up on the next slide. Another one of my favorite quotes, I love going through my old quotes here: traditions are group efforts to keep the unexpected from happening. Wow. How many things are you doing out of tradition? We've always done it that way. And why haven't you changed? Because change leads to unexpected things. I know exactly what happens if we always do it the same way. Well, guess what? I know exactly what happens if you always do it the same way as well, which is why I'm telling you, stop doing it the same way. Okay? Find another way of doing it. You have nothing to lose right now. The market has changed completely. it's like we've all shown up at a costume party. You can wear any costume that you want. You can be any person you want to be in this marketplace, but you better have your character ready, because when you go in there, you've got to be on character. So let's figure out what that is for you. All right, a couple more questions here. So this was a conversation. They want to know how to apply these, my templates, knowing what my service proposal template is, to a hotel AV quote. So if you're a hotel AV provider, if you work out of a hotel, you have boutique properties, whatever it might be, how should you be doing proposals? And unfortunately, very often your proposal gets stripped and gets stuck into a food and beverage banquet contract. But often, if you can work directly with the customer, do your independent proposal, which then goes on the master after they sign off, then you can send a real proposal. Start with that transaction template. Okay, so in most cases, 99% of the jobs that you do as an in-house hotel AV provider are going to be transactional. So the value proposition of your transactional proposal includes the on-site AV expert, the equipment coordinated with the banquet and convention services, scheduling advantages, you're consolidating into one bill, all those things that are part of the value proposition of being in-house. And that's kind of what you lead off with, is make sure that they see that on there. If there's a minimum package that the client gets with the room, if every room comes with a screen, a projector, and a microphone, if I were writing the proposal, if I was the manager, I would be saying, what you have is an allowance. That allowance is worth $1,000 a day. If you would like to use it for something else, here's how we can go about doing that. Because my goal in this proposal is to get the next conversation, okay? Get them talking to me saying, well, what if we just want to do this? Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, absolutely. We can put a 50-inch display out in the lobby. Would you like a vertical display? Would you like me to build the content for you? Okay, we can start building on that, but we have to get that conversation going first. And you're not going to get that if you send them a line item proposal that says, here's our price sheet for a 50-inch monitor or a tripod screen. Yuck, right? You may as well go find a threefold brochure from the 1980s and mail it to them. Get them to engage with you, and you'll have much, much better success. All right, so here's a question from the chat. How do you define the scope of work in a way that does limit that over delivery? For instance, when you say sound system to cover X space and the wireless blah, 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 there are a lot of interpretations in that from the client's perspective. Are there? Really? If you have a control buyer, there's a lot of interpretations, which is why, selling sound for 500 people and 8 wireless mics isn't going to work for them. However, if you have a confidence buyer who doesn't really understand what that means, you can say, you change your scope of work to say, we're going to provide you enough. You have an audience of 500 people sitting at appropriate distancing levels, distances at 4 people to around, whatever it might be. And we will provide a sound system that will cover this expanded area, make sure that everybody can hear equally well. There'll be no poor seats. We want to make sure each presenter has a dedicated microphone. Based on your agenda, we're going to need up to 8 wireless microphones so that nobody has to share a microphone. That's a scope of work. And so if you tie it back into the reality of what it is you're trying to sell for that buyer and what's important to them, all of a sudden it is in their perspective. Oh, you guys have thought about all this. I should quit worrying about it. And that's what we're trying to get in all of that. Good comment. Thank you. Another question that was sent to me was, we often have to quote from RFPs, and you guys know that I've got a lot of experience responding to RFPs. And we often have to quote from RFPs, and sometimes we don't get a response or feedback. How can we improve our chances of getting some traction, or getting that next conversation, or getting the follow-up call, or even somebody to turn you down? I mean, a lot of times these people just go dark. I get it. Again, it's our fault because we are not doing the things that we should be doing in advance. How can I change my behavior? So the first step is make sure that you are doing the qualification of the person or the group that's sending out the request. Ask them for their process and the timeline for that process. What's the criteria for awarding? This doesn't have to be a long drawn out thing. Just to, hey, what's your timeline for this? What's the criteria you're looking for? When do I get to ask you questions about what's the content of the RFP? You know, is there a public forum where all the bidders can see the responses? You know, how level is the playing field, et cetera. So sometimes when we ask these questions, we'll find that the buyers don't qualify. If you're determined to respond to the RFP and quote on the job, even if the person's not qualified, give me a call. Let me talk you out of that. You need to be turning down some specs. You need to be walking away from some business because clearly you don't have enough business, and we're afraid of the customer. We can't be afraid of them. We're the expert. Sometimes they're not going to qualify. Sometimes they're not looking for somebody who's smart. They're looking for somebody who's compliant. And if that's not who you want to be, then you should probably keep looking. So make sure that there is a process in what you do. A customer who doesn't want to do the basic process and won't answer a few basic questions is probably not somebody you really want to do business with anyway. Oh, and the other thing I want to say is that when somebody comes to you with an RFP, they are more times than not a control buyer. That's what control buyers do. That's their job, right? So they're a control buyer, and they're probably not going to evaluate your proposal at all. They're simply going to compare prices. They want to look at your line item detailed list and make sure it contains the parts and pieces that are important to them, or give them ideas of how to make somebody else's proposal better by saying, hey, why don't you do this instead? So you're educating them. You're doing their job for them for free. And remember, you don't have to follow the rules, right? If they come to you and say, you have to respond to this RFP, all of our questions are answered online, and the due date is this, and you can't deviate from the spec. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is break the rules, right? Tell them what they asked for don't work, and here's the path to a better solution, and they can take that path or they can leave it. In other words, commit, draw a line in the sand, you know, believe in what it is that you do and your value to it. And it's better to say right off the bat saying, I'm sorry, I can't follow your format. I'd be happy to submit a proposal, but based on what you're asking for in your RFP, we don't think it will work, and our proposal is not going to look like what you asked for. Sometimes they'll say, well, send it anyway. Sometimes they'll say, well, fine, don't send it, in which case you save yourself a lot of time. But I'm used to having a lot of business to bid on and being able to turn away work, which is where I want you to be. But we can certainly be better at writing proposals on our way there. Any other questions in here that we can get in the next minute or so? As a stagehand company last year, we transitioned from sending one proposal for a labor request to offering 2 to 3 options for a client, to that client for a gig. Most clients appreciated the approach has been effective. No, I have no problem with that. Guys, I'm the king of option selling. I love options. When it comes to talking about proposals, I could do 2 full days on proposals, and I would spend 2/3 of one day just simply talking about options. The thing about options is options are not variations. Options are increasing orders of value. How can I make what they've asked for more valuable? Okay. It's more money, but it could be more important to them. Maybe there's something that you can do that they didn't think about asking. Maybe there's a coordination effort that you can take over. It's not the same as a value add, which is something you do for free. But if I put a price on a value add, it just became an option. So one of our value added services is we come down and we wipe down the entire ballroom before load-in starts. Don't make that a value add, make it an option. Say, we'll add a sanitation crew. Here's what it takes to add a sanitation crew that will work all day on your event to help protect you and your presenters as well as our crew. That's an option. So there's some awesome things you can do with optioning. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. About 40% of our business, this is Andrews, before the shutdown was straight cross-rental or sub-hired gear orders. Any good strategies out there for sales personnel to shift from itemized quotes to value-based formula? Okay, so salespeople who are traditionally doing or order takers, and they're doing sub-rentals or cross-rentals, I don't need salespeople to do that. I need a clerk. I need a customer service rep. And you're going to be doing a lot less of that business because right now people have a lot of excess capacity, and they don't want to do a transaction. They want to negotiate a deal because no one's trying to let go of their money right now. So you need a higher level if you're going to do B2B business with each other. It's not all going to be a traditional rental where we give you a PO and send you a check. It's going to be, hey, here's what I need this week. What do you need next week? And you're going to be doing some trades and stuff. And that's not, salespeople aren't going to negotiate those deals typically for you. Now we're talking about owners and executives and managers, which is probably all that's left in your organization right now anyway. Strategies for sales personnel to shift from itemized quotes to a value-based formula. It's tough. However, it's just a change in process. So if I'm trying to help a sales team who's used to doing itemized quotes and squirting something right out of Flex or HireTrack and sending it off to the customer, all we're going to do is add a step or two to the process. So we're going to generate that quote with the itemized thing, and then we're going to come back and have a little conversation. Same conversation that a confidence client would have with you, which is, I don't understand what all these line items mean. What is this section going to do for me? Well, will it do this? Will it do this? Will it do this? Tell me what it won't do. Okay. This is how you build a scope of work. And if I can get the salesperson to answer those questions, if they know how to answer those questions and have that conversation, all I got to do now is get them to write it. Okay. So here's what you do. Have that discussion about the project, record the conversation, run it through a transcript service that will write your words out. They can go cut and paste it out of there and build their quote and bring it back to you. So that's one good strategy for getting them out of the line item selling business and learning how to actually use words, their words, to sell things. So great question. That would be quite a seminar, quite a course, right? All right, guys, we are out of time. I'm trying to be respectful of your time. We ran a couple minutes over, but we'll get better at this. Thank you for your comments and questions in your chat. Please continue to send some more questions to me. We're going to talk about streaming next week. I'll get the recording up on the same page that you've been looking at. We're going to continue to use that same page where all the entire webinar series is on there. I'm even going to include some extra things on there I didn't talk about, such as a link to a webinar on project-based selling that we did before, that service proposal template. So there's a webinar that goes with that. If you're interested in learning more about it, you can just watch that. So be well, be safe, and we'll talk to you next week. Cheers.